Stay tuned. Today I sit down with Nathaniel Getzels, who shares his formula of like, love, and trust to build out his social media. And the other really fascinating piece that he shares is how he brought the social component back to the platform. As always, I'm your host and referral partner out of San Francisco, Shawn Conkler. Nathaniel, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
So a huge thank you to Athena Brownson out of Colorado, who introduced us, who was a past guest on the show. She's an amazing human, so I appreciate her introduction. To give everybody some really quick context about you and the business that you're doing, in a few sentences, who are you and what do you do?
Oh, well, terrific. First, I just want to agree that, yes, Athena is an amazing human and spectacular agent in Colorado. Lucky to have met her when I did. For me, I am Nathaniel Getzels. I run a team here in Calabasas, Compass Calabasas. Real estate team. We do residential, focus on residential. We have some commercial. We have, a large team, so we can cover a lot of things. I grew up here in LA. In my former life, as I like to say, I was a teacher. So I taught in every level of school from preschool administrator through college. I skipped first through fifth because, save time. But so that's what I did in my former life. But so when I came to real estate, I came with a more, to me, it was a unique perspective, which was, how can I help you grow? What can I bring to the table? Not what can I take? Unfortunately, very often real estate ends up being a very transactional kind of space. And so for me, it was from a perspective of, everything was from a perspective of how can I help? What can I bring to the table? Everything's been about how I grow, how can I educate and help you be better? And so a lot of real estate I found was educating your clients, educating, people where they need to be, even if the transaction isn't happening today. Let's work on your plan. Let's create like a lesson plan, if you will, or a curriculum of this is how to get you into a house, or this is where you want to be in life, and this is how you do it with the, leveraging real estate to benefit you. Like I had one friend who I remember when I first started in real estate, she never thought she would own a house, but she was renting, and so I showed her how to take the money she was using to rent to buy her first house. And even her family, who was in real estate, said she was out of her mind. And then, fast forward, now we're 15 years later. She's 3 houses down the line, living in her dream house, has financial security, has a beautiful place for her daughter to live, and is actually has generational wealth to leave. So, I think because everything kind of roots back to an authentic, organic connection with people, I get to work with some very interesting people and have had the opportunity to work on and sell some of the most unique properties to some very, very unique people in the world. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's a little
Yeah,
bit.
it's really fascinating. And you reminded me something that I heard that Tony Robbins said is relationships are not a place to go and get something. They're a place to go and give. And it sounds like through the spirit of teaching, you show up in a very different way where it's not a transaction. And actually one of the vocabulary pieces we've adjusted on my team is we never promote or talk about houses sold ever. It's always clients helped. And
Yes,
it's because I want the core of everybody I'm working with to focus on the people, the human, not the transaction, not the money. And so how do we pull it back and actually care about their needs and ultimately be a fiduciary for them?
yeah, absolutely. And each state defines fiduciary differently, technically, like legally, but the truth is, you're their guide. Being a fiduciary is being someone's guide, right? You're guiding
Correct.
people, and you should be giving them advice and helping them guide to the uh, result that they want. In this case, it's usually buying or selling a house. But as a fiduciary on a bigger level, you should be somebody's guide.
Mm.
And, I always tell people, I always make the joke, and usually they get it right away, but sometimes they look at me sideways because I always go, well, you're stuck with me forever after this point. Like we're not just selling or buying a house and then I'm going to disappear. You're stuck with me. You're going to be with me till you're old.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to be here to guide you. I'm not, it doesn't stop at the sale. I'm your
Yeah.
guide now. I'm going to be helping you on your journey, wherever it is, even if there's not another purchase or sale in your future. Because some people, it's the right choice to stay in their house 30, 40 years, and that's great. And so, it's, being that guide and being that helping force is so important. And I think especially in a world where uh, we don't have a financial literacy education,
It's
right?
true.
So, I mean that's why actually I got out of teaching. I felt like the school system was broken because everything they were teaching I felt was wrong, right? They teach you not to copy. You should definitely copy success and, maybe tweak it a little, but you should be seeing
Hmm.
what is successful and doing that. Um,
100%.
right? They teach you to get out of debt. You should be leveraging your debt, right? That's
Hmm. Hmm.
a key way that you can make more money with your money. Um, they teach you in schools, get a good job. You should be building wealth. So that was a you know a basic thing that I at my core disagreed with.
Yeah.
They're not teaching you how to manage money at all. So, good luck. So most people have no idea. I mean, Einstein said compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world, and either you understand it and you earn it, or you don't and you pay it. So,
It's 100% true.
I think everybody needs a good set of guides, and if I can be one of the guides that helps people in their journey, and if particularly around real estate space, but
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
in general, I think that's a beautiful thing.
It's funny. I'm on the same page, and I completely agree. Regardless if the person wants to move tomorrow or they're planning on literally living their final days in their home,
Yeah,
they're going to know somebody who's going to move, and so why not that introduction be to you? And the house, all houses, all properties are constantly evolving. They're aging, and so they always need something. And so
that's
people
right.
always need a resource, and we have the best resources because we get to work with a ton of different painters, ton of different inspectors, ton of different, we know the best of the best of the best because we're in it every single day. And so just showing up for people is not only feels good, but it solidifies your position as the authority in their life. So when they know anything that's coming up with their property, to just call you and you'll take care of it.
Exactly.
Um, and it goes far beyond that too. It's like birthday wishes and well wishes. Social media connects us on a level that is unparalleled. I know you've gone very hard on the paint with your social media and you leverage that incredibly. How's that journey been like?
Well, when I started in real estate, when I started my business, I didn't do anything that I was like told to do, right? Because I wanted to work with people that I attune with, that
Yeah,
I have an authentic, organic relationship with. Obviously, I couldn't quite describe it as well at the time. I
sure.
was just like, people. So, but now I can describe it very well, which is much better. But so what I did was I didn't have, I had been a teacher, like I was saying, I'd been a teacher. So I didn't have a ton of money to go in, but I had time and I knew
Mm,
people. So I just organically started posting. And back then it was Facebook mainly. Facebook was the predominant
yeah.
platform. And so I just got on Facebook and I realized, I'm generating business almost by accident, just completely organically through Facebook. So then I went, if I can systemize this a bit, I can probably make this more purposeful. So I really built the first few years of my business just on social media and Facebook for the most part, that and my referral sphere. And a lot of what I realized was I could take social media and reach out to a lot of my sphere on a much greater level and more commonly with authentic things that were really me, because the thing about social media that people forget is it is actually social. It's supposed to be social. It's not an advertising platform. It's not a modeling platform. Those are things that turn people off. So I've had a long journey in the social media space, and we've gone from we went from basic videos like this sitting in front of your computer to all the way up to a 5 camera, lighting, microphones. I mean, there was a team, I don't even know what half those people did, but it looked beautiful. It did look beautiful. But that was to produce people, it didn't resonate, right? Because
100%.
yeah, so the key was figuring out a way to attune with your people through social media, but nobody's going to attune to the overproduced, 12 camera shot thing, because that's clearly not you being you, right? So you got to it was about finding a balance, but I had generated so much business in my first few years on social, I became a top agent almost immediately.
Holy cow.
And,
That's incredible.
yeah, and it was really funny because, and this goes back to also kind of what's wrong with the education system, which is, you're rewarded when you do as you're told, right? And I didn't do as I was told, and every step of the way, everyone was telling me, you're going to fail, you're wasting your time, you're going to be out of this business. And then 3 years later, they all turned around almost together and said, can you actually show us what you were doing? Can you teach us what you've been doing this whole time? Because it seems to be working better than what we're doing now, right? So
That's
it was a
hilarious.
kind of a funny, that part, it was kind of a funny journey, you know.
I remember I've been in the business about 7, 8 years, and I made my
Hmm.
first video. It was a marketing video about like the state of the San Francisco market. And I
Yeah.
immediately got called into the office and
Cool.
like, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to put your name out there like this? And blah, blah, blah. And like this whole, like, there's some agents in the old guard were not having it. And it
Hmm.
was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm doing this. So like, and at that point I was like, I'm going hard on the paint. And then
Yep.
I think the cool, beautiful thing too with that, as you just shared, is like, you try new things and then you overly produce it and you're like, oh, okay, that doesn't work. Let me try this. And then I tried that. And it's through all of these iterations. That's how I came up with Realtor 180 is I I didn't want to sit and be a talking head in front of a computer. And I'm insanely curious and I wanted to learn from people. And I was like, who better to learn from than people in the actual industry, realtors, who
Yeah.
are doing it? And to your point earlier, is copying from somebody is not only the best form of flattery, but it's the quickest way from A to Z. Like if you say, hey, if you post 4 times a day this content on these platforms over a duration, you will have success. Like I don't have to do anything different other than the formula you just gave me and run with it. Period.
Right.
And it is funny because once we click into that, everything accelerates tenfold.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That was the whole point. Is like, if I just systemize this, if I figure out the system
Exactly.
and really create a way to rinse and repeat, then this is going to be great. And back then, you didn't need any money for social, so it was even better, right?
And I would say too, for an agent who's new trying to figure out social, this is actually the absolute best place to hire a virtual assistant, is because do it, figure out your formula, write down your system, and then you have a system and now you can hand that off. And then all the the tagging and descriptions and all of that, you can, that's off your plate. Now you can go back to either making more videos or spending more time with clients. And it's really genuinely easily scalable, but it's like working out. You can't go to the gym once and be like, I'm fit for life, I'm done. Like,
Well, that's just
yeah,
like anything else in our space, right?
just
Uh,
consistency.
yeah. Well, you know, and I always have people ask me, what's the most like what's the most successful thing? Like what's the thing I should be doing? What am I going to make the most money on? I said, and I always tell them it's the thing. I always tell my team, the thing that you're going to keep doing. Whatever that
Yeah.
thing is, that's going to be the best for you, right? Because um, you know, with social, you have to be consistent,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
With everything, you have to be consistent. But a lot of agents, they just want to go out and do something, and if they don't have success right away, they quit,
Yeah.
and then they're like, well, that didn't work. Well, maybe you needed to do it for a year, and then it would be successful. You know, so that is definitely a very consistency is the key to making any of these things work. And if you're new on social, there's also so many new AI tools that are making it so
100%.
easy. It's like it's almost like cheating at a certain point here, you
It
know, because
really, I mean, it's, you know, technology in any category. It's like the ease of putting together an offer in our business is 1,000 times easier than it was 30 years ago. You can literally do it, send it, read all the disclosures from your phone in your pocket and
hmm
send and write the offer, send it to the agent in 15 minutes. Like it's like incredible.
I
And
know it
it's
was
in,
so, go
I was
ahead.
going to say with social, and what's interesting is, as with everything, everybody's always looking for like the quick hit or the easiest solution.
hmm
The interesting thing with social, and I'm sure you have experienced this, is you have no idea what's going to take off. Like we
Well,
post shorts
right.
regularly on the
Mhm.
YouTube channel, and like 500, maybe 1,000 views consistently. And then every once in a while you get one that's like 5,000 views out of nowhere, but you're like, same thing.
Right. You're like, I didn't really do anything that different. And maybe it got on the For You page, maybe you know, the algorithm caught it a little bit more. But yeah, maybe, you know, there's a million reasons it could work. And the
Mhm.
thing about social is, I think for people that are just starting, don't worry about it going viral or, you know, how many views. Figure out what your formula is, figure out
Yes.
what your brand is. You know, I tell people go and you could go make a Pinterest board and go, okay, what are the five recurring themes over these 100 pictures that I like?
Hmm.
All
Hmm.
right,
Hmm.
well, here are the rules of my brand. Then you can create a color scheme out of that. You can go, okay, now if it fits this kind of post, like this type of item, and it's this color scheme, then it's an automatic go. I don't even have to think twice about it. You just got to create a way, but it has to be you, right? You don't just, this is where you don't copy as much. This is
Yeah.
where you take the things you organically like, so it's actually authentically you online.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, most likely the best parts of you or the prettiest you or whatever, but you know, it's where you are, it's the things you actually like, it's the things that resonate, things you can attune with people when you do interact with them either virtually or in person. And you know, it's you up there, but there's a structure to it. Because a lot of people, their problem is they can't figure out what to post or when to post or where to post.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, this is one of those things where perfection is the enemy of success.
Hmm.
Just do it. But if you need to do it, you should be doing it with a little bit of a structure and not a lot. I mean, you could look at any of my pages. I have two on Instagram alone, and there's themes, but they're very dynamic and they're very different. And you know, it's everything from pretty pictures of houses to an informational video to stats, you know, stats about the market to whatever. But it's always things that I'm interested in, like you know, political things that are affecting the market or
Hmm.
lawsuits or anything like that. So, you know, if you figure out a structure to it, it becomes very easy to do. And it's a great way to authentically reach out and kind of get a little, you know, give a little light touch. Now, if that's all you're doing and you never circle back, maybe it'll work out occasionally.
Mm,
But for the most part, this is just a great way to reach out to your sphere, a great way to grow your sphere. But then you have to nurture them, not just depend on that alone. Nothing
correct.
works alone, right?
And that is such a great point. It's like a layered effect. Like you can't just do one thing. It's you have to layer in a relationship, just like a relationship with a sibling or a friend. Like it's not just text messages. It's also phone calls. It's also in-person visits and hangouts, and it's social media. But I genuinely love that aspect that you talk about of it's social media. It's socializing. And so that like bringing back that actual social component is so important. And I would say too with I love the idea of create your own Pinterest board of you of like go back and look. And if you look at highly successful people, like Athena's page, for example, her
Mhm.
page, when you scroll through it, it has a very specific brand. There's a flavor to it. There's a style to the videos. Lloyd
Yes.
O'Neill, who's out of San Diego, all his first photos, he always does a little mini carousel of photos. All his first photos are black and white. Every time you see it, you know it's his. So that's his thing. And Mark Hernandez, who's out of LA, he actually shared with me, similar to you, that aha moment of like, it's socializing, it's social media. His philosophy on posting is he's the curator of a magazine. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense of like, okay, you're putting this thing together. What's the overarching theme and story this whole narrative is communicating? And
Right.
I I think though, if nothing else, just post and then
Yeah.
build the plane as you're flying it. Like don't overanalyze it. Just put something up. You can always delete later, but you got to
Exactly.
start building something.
You can always delete later. That's so key too. Well, I don't know if I should put the I don't know. Well, if you don't have the formula, just put it up, right? If you have a formula like the Pinterest, well, does it have these colors in it? Yes. Is it this type of thing? Yes. Then you put it up. But if you don't have that, just put it up. And if you later decide you don't like it, take it down. People have seen it. It's fine. You interacted. You don't.
Yeah.
It's like if you're at a dinner party, you know, you don't live in that house. You don't live at the table. You go from
Mhm.
here to there to maybe the bar to the appetizers, and then you sit down for the dinner. You don't have to stay in the same spot just to make that connection or that and have that interaction.
Within the formula, do you
Mhm.
have a schedule formula? Meaning, do you post certain things on certain days, or do you have a posting schedule that you would recommend for somebody brand new trying to figure this out?
So the thing that I recommend is have themes for the day. Like I always have a rule like 3 stories a day, and the stories don't have to be in theme. The stories just have to go out. There has to be 3 a day because you're sharing the authentic, organic, raw you in the story. The story is time sensitive. The story is there and gone. So it does not have to be with the theme and that sort of stuff. Now, for somebody that's new, I would suggest figuring out theme days. Like, for example, maybe you have Monday updates, and Monday you do update days. And then Tuesdays, you share a caravan story or a reel of your
Mm.
caravans that you went on. Because in this market here, Tuesday is one of the caravan days. That's why I choose it. Then maybe Wednesdays you talk about something in the market. Here's a market uh, prediction. And then Thursday, here's real estate news. And then Friday could be, Friday's a little bit more fun. So maybe you find a more fun kind of post to put up on Fridays. Or Friday Fun Day, or here's fun things that are happening in my market in the local neighborhood,
Mm.
right? Or here's fun things I'm doing, or here's something fun I did, right? And because you don't have to post on the day you do the thing, nobody cares,
That's very
right?
true as well.
The story is the time sensitive thing. The the real post or picture is not. That is
Mhm,
the
mhm.
timeless part. So, sometimes I see people posting something I know they did 3 months ago.
Yeah, you're like, I was there at that event.
Right. I was like, I recognize that. I know. Huh. Okay, well, picture still looks great. And, 3 months later, nobody cares when you actually were there, right? So for social, the key is remember it's you, though. You
Yeah.
are actually trying to make an authentic, organic either statement or connection with somebody. So
Yeah.
think of it as though you're putting up a picture, you're at a party. This is the way I think of it when you're going to post like a picture, right? Not necessarily of a just sold. I don't really post a lot of those. I think those are boring. But if you're posting a picture, if you're at a party and you have that picture on your phone, is this something you'd want to go, hey, Jill, look at this? And then you have a story about that picture. And can you see it? Would that be interesting for somebody to look at?
Mm.
Right? That's the way I think of it. But for me, I just flow it now. It just goes. So I don't need that. I'm not as formulaic about it anymore because
Yeah.
I've done it so long. Excellence isn't a skill, it's a habit, right? And everything, you can make everything a habit. And then those are things that you wanted to do. So social for me now is a habit, right? So
Interesting.
um, in general, and that's like I have this book, I call it the hustle book, and it has daily things to do every day for agents. And I told my team, if you start doing this every day, it is a year calendar and I have every day mapped out, but it's pretty much the same things every day.
Yeah.
And if you do these things every day in a few months, you won't need the book.
It's very true.
Yeah,
It's
because
yeah,
you'll
to create
be doing it.
to form a habit, it's actually pretty easy. And then once you form the habit, you go onto a streak, and then something clicks in your brain, and it feels more weird to not do the thing than to do the thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is
Then it's uncomfortable to not do the thing. And it's so good when you get uncomfortable because when you're uncomfortable, you're growing in a way that you can't grow. You
yeah.
can't duplicate by doing anything other than that thing that because being uncomfortable actually creates growth and different connections in your brain that can't happen any other way.
It's completely true. I mean, it's and other really amazing things come out. It's like running, like saying I want to run a marathon versus I am a marathon runner. Your whole vocabulary changes, and then the whole structure around doing that thing completely changes. And if you do it long enough, then people start coming to you because you're the authority at running, and they're
That's right.
asking you about diet and shoes and the best shorts and all of that, which parlays into my next piece, especially being a newer agent who is trying to cut their teeth in the business and they have just natural insecurities, the fears,
Mhm.
which bleed in, and that's fine. But how do you recommend building the authority within the space?
Well, there's a couple of things. First is um, so there's a couple different ways to do it, and the first is you have to make all those little micro items like you have to make them all micro wins. So all those things become natural for you, right? Like
Mm,
checking your CRM, calling, X number of people a day, reaching out to your clients, listing houses, all that. So it all has to become because the thing that keeps people motivated, it's not the big goal, right? The big goal is not what keeps you motivated. What keeps you motivated is all the micro wins that lead up to it. Like, do you know why people have morning rituals?
mhm.
So people have morning rituals not because necessarily they love making their bed or they love, meditating for or 30 minutes all that much or whatever that not because of the item, but because then it's a micro win that starts the day that then propels them into the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So so staying motivated and ready and making all those things habits so then those habits become built-in micro wins you're just naturally doing and you feel good. So then when you go out and you're feeling good, you can speak in a more comfortable, happy, and organic way with people. So
Yeah.
I found, and I think more than ever, authority marketing in general is going to become more prominent. So when you have an opportunity to authentically, organically connect with somebody,
Mhm.
um, that's key, right? I think we talked about that before. But now, how do you amplify that? So, like, for example, what are we doing right now? We're on a podcast, right? You are an amazing, highly refined professional, and so am I. But so we're both here, and we're sharing each other's authority, right? So that people who trust you now, maybe that they're like, oh well, if you're on that show, you must have something good.
Mhm. Mhm.
So now that it's sharing the authority. So that's authority marketing right there. So podcast is a great example of authority marketing. And so the thing that I like to explain to new agents is because everybody, they all worry, and this is also how we leverage the team, but they all worry how long somebody's got to ask me how long I've been doing this, how many houses I've sold, and start questioning me. But the truth is, nobody's going to question you if they like, love, and trust you because it
True.
doesn't matter how many you've sold if you make somebody comfortable, right? And you can show them that you know what you're talking about, uh, you're an expert in the space, and you're going to take good care of them in, you know, either it's giving them advice or through a transaction or whatever it is they're looking for help with. If you
Mhm.
can do that, nobody's going to question, oh, well, how old are you, or how many houses have you sold, or what's the most expensive house you've sold? Because it's about getting over the objections before they're made. And part of that is
Yeah.
making someone extremely comfortable. And you do that through showing your expertise. And is it being, extremely helpful when they need help with referrals? Is it, you know, constantly providing information about the market to them? Or is it about being an amazing resource when you do see the person or the people and you can, let them know where the market is, where it's going, what the predictions are, and how they can benefit from those things?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because if you do that, if you show somebody where the market is, where it's going, how they're going to benefit from it, and you do it in an intelligent, logical way, nobody cares how long you've done this, and
It's
nobody
true.
cares how old you are. I mean, when I started in real estate, I had been a teacher, but I was still in my 20s, and everybody else in my office, I believe, at the time, I wasn't in an office with anyone under 50. And so there was a lot of questions of, oh, well, you're young. Oh, well, there, and it was taken as a negative. So there was a lot of things that I
Mm.
learned how to overcome an objection before it's made, and then it doesn't even become a question in the client's mind, and they're comfortable
Yeah.
because it came organically from them of I'm comfortable, right? There's no nervous energy.
It's true, and it's interesting. The term I use for overcoming the objection early is inoculating the objection, and so
Hmm.
you frame it in the way that you speak. But if you actually listen to what you're sharing, which is interesting, is woven into that is the consistency of communication, and if you're consistent, congruent with your communication style, meaning you actually care. You're not just saying you care, but you're showing you care. And then you're consistently in front of them. You don't leave them space to go talk to anybody else
That's right, because
because you're in front of them.
yeah, and once you uh, master top of mind awareness with somebody,
Yeah.
they don't need to talk to anybody else because they think of houses, they think of Shawn. That's just what happens.
And that's when you hit that point, that's when magic happens. Of
Absolutely. And that's why you have such a strong network in San Francisco because people in San Francisco think of houses and they go, Shawn, I should ask Shawn about this.
yeah.
I have people tell me all the time, oh, I heard something about houses on the news and I thought I needed to call you. Or I just thought about you because I heard about houses. So
Yeah.
that's the best kind of marketing you can do where somebody hears a key phrase like house and they think of you. right? It's like people hear Tesla, they think of Elon Musk, right? That's
Mhm.
top of mind awareness. He has achieved that in a huge way. And that's really on a much smaller level. What agents need to do with their clients is achieve that top of mind awareness. And the way to do that is through, the way I do that and the way I teach people to do that is through consistent communication, using authority marketing, getting into places where you are the source.
Yes,
Once you're the source for somebody else, especially if they're already trusted, you're going to be trusted. You share in the
100%.
trust.
It's so true. And the other phrase that I use, which is a little bit different than yours, is the crystal ball effect, which is you take a piece of information, the interest rates are going down, right? And then you say what that means is home prices are going to go up. And then you crystal ball it. What that really means to you is in the future, we're going to see this, or in
Hmm.
the future, this is going to happen. And that's where people they want certainty and they lean on somebody who can interpret the information. Like when you go to the doctor and they say, here's your diagnosis, and then you want to know your future options. What
Hmm.
happens if I take this magic pill? What's the future actually going to look like? You want their authority on that, and that's actually how you prove or showcase on a very deep level. And to your point, if they know you, they like you, they're are converting to the love you part. That's when they start trusting you, because it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I can follow that path of logic. This person knows what they're talking about, and then it becomes smoother and easier. I always find you know when this is happening or it has happened when you go on a listing presentation. Like if you have to do the whole song and dog and pony show, and you go through everything, and then you have to go back through everything, and then you go back again. It's so much different. I've had this happen where I've walked up in front of the house, met somebody, I've talked to him for years before. We wound up standing in front of the house. We had a brief conversation. She handed me the keys and said, "Send me the paperwork."
Yep.
And
That's
to
absolutely the
and
best.
to your point, that's when that's how all of your micro habits, your micro wins, all collectively showed up at the same time.
Absolutely right. Yep. And that's why referrals are so important for my business because
Oh
when
my
I get a
gosh.
referral, that's the result, right? Versus, oh, I saw your sign or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's a completely different conversation, different interaction because if if somebody doesn't attune with you,
Yeah.
then whether they trust you or not isn't going to matter because if they don't
True.
feel connected, and they don't feel you care about them, then you're a commodity and you can be replaced. If you
Hmm.
care about somebody and they trust you and they love you, now you're not a commodity anymore because people think of agents as commodities until you're not. And
Correct.
and you have to get to that not point and that's when it's special. And that's where
It's
you can
so
really do
true.
amazing things. Yeah.
And we are the commodity part many times, more often than not, when you're sitting in front of a seller and the only one thing they want is to sell the property. And
Right.
they know agent A and agent B are promising to basically do the same thing. And
Yeah.
so the paradigm shift is getting us out of that perception. And usually if you go back and actually ask all those times that you lost and you ask enough questions, usually 9 times out of 10, it was something about the other person they just liked a little bit better. And it
Hmm.
has nothing to do with actual skill or property sold. They'll tell you that it'll be under the guise of something else, but it was actually under trust, which all leans on the other two, the like and love components. Period.
It's very rare that it's actually anything other than uh, something they felt,
Yeah.
right? And that's in general, like when you leave that room, this is so important. When you leave that room, if you're on a listing appointment, for example, and you leave that room, they're not going to remember what you told them. They're going to remember how you made them feel.
100%.
So,
Yeah.
if they can feel cared about, valued, then they're going to automatically feel, I mean, unless you do something colossally strange, they're going to feel like you know what you're talking about and you're smart and you're trusted. So you're going to build that trust
Yeah.
just from how they feel. So,
I
um, yeah.
The other really subtle thing that I found as well is don't refer to it as a property or a unit. Refer to it as their home. And
Yes.
don't forget, this is the place that they've loved and carried so many special memories in. And it's
Hmm.
incredibly sacred and special to them. It's not a transaction. It's not
That's right.
just a sale. And so showing them through your communication that you actually love the space and you're excited for this opportunity, that goes a long, long, long way to winning them over, to knowing that you actually give a care about them.
In fact, I've just gotten listens, even when it's somebody who it was a referral, and they go, we're interviewing 5 agents, and I usually like to ask to go last, just because,
Same.
you know, I'm like, well, if you're definitely going to interview all 5, then just let me go last because, um, you know, I don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
And very often they go, and I usually don't like to leave until the contract's signed, or at least we have like a verbal agreement. Yes, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And
Same.
it's very often they've told me, well, we're going to go with you because we've talked to all these other people and they were negative, or we didn't feel they cared about us, or they were, they said bad things about our house and this is where we live, or
Yeah.
it's like sometimes to me it feels like simple things that people just don't do, but maybe it's more complex in the moment. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure. Why do you like to go last, Sean?
Because I'm sneaky.
Oh,
And I'd like to start with it's like thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. It sounds like you've already met with four other agents. I'm curious, what's really standing out in your mind of
mhm.
like what some like and I want to dig in like what did you like and what did you not like so I can highlight more of the things that you liked and I can make sure I avoid or inoculate the things you didn't like. And you don't have those if you go first,
Correct.
because it's really important. And also if they've bought and sold prior to, you want to parlay that into their prior experience. What did you like about that experience? What did you not like? And then I custom tailor. I don't have, similar to the podcast, like we joked about before this. I don't have a list of questions. I don't have a formula because it's organic. I know it's like if I were going to drive back to my home state of Connecticut and I had a month to do it, sure, I know exactly where I'm going, but I have no idea the roads I'm going to go. I'm going to meander because I have all the time in the world. And so I know if I'm sitting down, I have an hour, I know the things I want to cover. I'm going to ask them what's important to them. We'll put them in an order. We'll cover all of those things and then I'll shape it as we go. And so that's how I would approach it. But I'm curious, why do you like to go last?
Well, a few things. Number one is I like to get the agreement, either a signature or the agreement that it's happening, and so it overcomes, the objection of, well, we need to meet with 4 other people,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
3 other people, or anybody else. And I do something similar. I ask them, what did you like, what you didn't like about the last 4 people? What are you hoping to get? Where do you want to be? What's important for you? Obviously, you've seen what everybody's offering. And by the way, here's a several step list of everything I'm going to do. Which of these did person, each of my competitors, if you will, or what of the other agents offered all these, and which
Hmm.
ones did they offer, and which ones did you like? Because donuts to dollars, they did not have it organized that way, and whether they're doing all those things or not, they did not explain it.
Yeah.
I mean, we do a lot of things that are unique and are a great value for sellers, and we do provide a lot of value. That's part of how I leverage the team as well.
Hmm.
But most people can't describe their value proposition very well.
Very
And
true.
so But and the problem with that is even if you're doing something, if you haven't explained it to the client, they might not realize you're doing it. So that's when I was new, that's what I would do. I'm like, don't worry, I'm doing everything you need. And I would sometimes I'd overperform, but I didn't always think about I need to clearly illustrate this and explain it to the clients the value they're getting. So now, instead of just doing it as I'm doing it, I mean, explaining it as I'm doing it, I like to explain it and have it clearly charted
Yeah.
before. And then they're like, wow, they feel um, like they're getting a great value, which they are, but they can understand it and they can see it because it's mapped out.
Yeah.
Now, granted, most of the time, overall, it's a referral. I show up,
It's halfway there.
we're already pretty much there. Oh, you met with some other people, great. You want to sign here or do you want to sign there? Like, you want to use blue or black? Is really like, the question
The
more than
alternate close.
right. Just well, and I do use an assumptive close almost every time because
As you should. They're
you know
powerful.
it's a powerful statement, and I feel like I truly believe if I'm in that door, if I'm in someone's house, I'm their best choice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the best job for them. And me and my team are going to give them the best service. And, you know, so I truly believe they need to be signing.
I,
And,
I,
and
I'm on the same page. Like, I think I was in a sales meeting years and years and years ago, and the guy coaching was like, who's the best salesperson in the room? And like, everybody was too intimidated. No one raised their hand. And he's like, every hand should be up right now, because when you're sitting in front of somebody, you should have the confidence that you're the best person for this job.
that's right.
And I'm like,
Absolutely.
oh, that was like another shift. The other reason I love having the list of what you will actually do for them, when you get to the commissions and you eye roll across the 6%, and then they say these other agents will do it for blank, blah blah blah, would you reduce your price? And I pull out the list and I say, sure, which of these items would you like to take away? And now the onus goes back on the list of, well, they're like, well, no, I want everything on the list. And you're like, great. Well, then that's why I charge a premium price.
Right.
And it's like, it becomes this weird double bind where they want everything, but they don't want to pay for everything. And then they kind of have this realization of like, okay, then we'll pay for it because we're actually getting these things.
Also, I like to explain, let's not trip over dollars to pick up pennies here.
Yeah.
Do you want to net the most for your house? Well, let's focus on that. Let's not focus on, a 0.5% here, 0.5% there. Let's focus on getting you the highest amount of money for that house,
Yeah.
which includes, getting the most eyes on it, do the best marketing, all of our private networks, right? Private networks is a lot. We've sold a lot of properties off market in the last year, and it has, when you have perceived, and in this case, authentic exclusivity, access to a property, it's a huge benefit, especially in a low inventory market, which we're all in at this
It's
point and
so
will be for
true.
years, right?
I
So,
don't, I, the hardest for me, at least, the articulable piece of the business that is actually the most valuable is our network. It's
absolutely.
everybody who's stored in your phone is incredibly valuable because we have these amazing relationships to either get transactions done. We know everybody. We know all the top performers want to only work with the other top performers. Everybody knows who the best of the best are. Like it's
Right.
and that piece when you're hired and then that comes along with you, it's a game changer for clients. Period.
And that's one of the things that we talk about on the team is, nobody wants to work with a bad agent, and
No.
no agent wants to work with a bad agent. And if you can have my huge network, that's great. But if you could have my huge network and the 10 people on my team's huge network at your disposal for the price of one, I mean, how is that not a slam dunk for you? Right? That just makes total sense. So, I think that's why a lot of in the last 10 years, I don't know about
Mm.
in San Francisco, but I know overall what I've seen is a lot of teams. It's really moved more towards a team model than anything. And
Yes.
having a team, and even what having a team means has changed over the years. But I think there's so
True.
much power in it, and it gives your clients a strategic advantage. It gives your agents a strategic advantage to get clients and to help their clients. It's and most teams are done wrong, but the ones that are done right really are a great advantage. A lot of agents just sit there and go, "Oh, I just, I just want to make more money, so I'll just make some more money," and that's why I have a team. But if you really have, everything's about mindset. So I have a mindset of abundance versus a mindset of scarcity. So I feel like there's always, not just that there's a pizza with certain slices, but we're in the pizza factory. We're cooking pizzas every day. There's more
Yeah.
pizzas to be had. Let's go. So, my goal is to have a team where each agent's so good, you don't even know who the team leader is because everybody's been given so much nurturing and tools and has such great experiences and contacts that everybody's flourishing.
Yeah.
So,
It's funny. I've picked that up from you, even in our early conversation. Is it feels like it's similar to our philosophy is a rising tide lifts all ships. And
mhm,
it sounds like the way that you've spoken of your team, even when we were joking around beforehand, trying to set up the cameras and lighting and mic,
yeah,
it seemed like a very flat management of we're all equal. We all specialize in something and we're all incredible at what we do. And we just are able to all run really fast because of it versus I'm the awesome superstar and everybody's here as my entourage to support me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that type of agent and I'm not judging that agent, but I got the read of you were more of like it was more of a flat management of everybody's succeeding collectively together.
absolutely, yeah. And that's always how I've designed it too, because I think a lot of um, team leaders don't take the time to understand what kind of team they're going to have or why they're having a team, why they
True.
want to build a team. And so understanding the 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 format of your team is so important. I did tons of hours and spent tens of thousands of dollars on training of how to be a team leader before I was a team leader because I didn't want to do it wrong.
Yeah.
And so, you have like the rainmaker type of team where there's one agent that literally rains down the deals, but it's not a healthy team because if you take out the rainmaker, the whole team falls apart because you don't have,
Correct.
right? And then you have the family style team, but that really only works if you're actually related because that's where everybody shares everything. And if you're not related, you end up getting a lot of jealousy and frustration and like, well, why are they getting part of my deal? I did this. This is my person. This is my client. So a family style, you really have to be careful if you're not a family. And even if you are, it could be iffy. So,
Yeah.
there's all these different styles. So I had to understand what style um, team and what the purpose of the team was. A lot of team leaders, and I'm in a lot of team leader groups, and a lot of team leaders will tell you, "Oh, well, I have a team because I want to make more money." And you go, "Okay, but for what other reason?" "Oh, that's it. Just make more money. I figure I'll just bring in people, and if they sell something great, I get part of it." And you're like, "What? Where's your value that you're offering?" "Oh, they get to be on my team. They get to be near me."
Oh my god, that's amazing. They just get
Yeah.
to be in my awesomeness. That's
That's right.
it.
They get to see this awesomeness. So, I really wanted to create um, a nurturing space where new agents could learn to be great agents, and great agents
Yeah.
can be learned to be legendary. So, that's the goal because, you know, I have training books, I have all kinds of stuff that we've built, um, and I happen to be at a very tech forward brokerage, which is very helpful.
Hmm.
But then I've also built, because I was a teacher, I still kind of, I think, have that teacher mindset of
Sure.
enrich, give more tools, figure out what you're missing and give you that thing, and then grow. So, you know, um, Yeah. So for people who are looking at building a team, understand your format and your purpose before you do it, because
Yeah.
otherwise, I have seen it be very, very messy, repeatedly.
It's not only messy. It's funny. I just had a guest on the previous episode, Kathleen Metcalf, and we were literally
Oh,
talking about the same thing. It's almost like you're aiming for opposing targets. It's like, on one half you're like, oh, I want to make more money, but I also want to work less, and you're like, those are two totally different targets that you're going after, and the people you're hiring are different. The culture you're creating is literally going in two different directions. You need to basically all point in the same direction, which all comes back from leadership. And it's kudos to you for doing so much training, because that's the hard part, is like really figuring out, like, sure, you could build a house, but what kind of house you're going to build? Where is it going to be built? How many floors is it going to be? It's all going to change the foundation, and the foundation is genuinely the most important part.
absolutely.
Um, I mean, we're in this industry. We know the importance of a foundation. So
Well, really and figuratively.
this has just been a really refreshing conversation. I certainly appreciate you sharing all that you have in your time. And with that, I would love to invite you. We have a guest only inner circle group. I'm going to send you an invite to that. You're welcome to come hang out with me and Athena and the rest of the amazing crew. But again, I appreciate all that you've shared. I'm sure people are curious of your social media, because all that you've shared regarding that. What is the best social media account for them to come find you?
Well, that's a great question. The top two, I mean, obviously you can search my name, Google me, you know, there's a million things that pop up, LinkedIn, etc. But I would look at the Getzels Group on Instagram. So it's at the Getzels Group. And then if you want to see my personal page, it's at Nathaniel underscore Getzels. But if you go to the Getzels Group, so it's at the Getzels Group, you'll see everything there, and it's a pretty fun page, you know. Yeah, we've been doing some migration, and we're doing some fun stuff on there,
Nice.
and we're actually just launching it. So, we only have, it's still a baby page. I think there's maybe 45,000 followers or something like that. So it's still at its
Only
infancy. It's still at its infancy. So I think I don't know, maybe.
45,000 for most is a pretty significant number. So it sounds like you're clearly, you know what you're doing, and you're doing it right.
Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, I built my whole business in through social media, so everything's it's fun. It's just you go in, you have some fun, and we post all kinds of interesting things. Also, I also post links on there to my blog, which I post articles about the real estate industry and different things about the markets and home ownership. So feel free to check that out there. You could go to just getzelsgroup.com.
That's amazing. And if you're an agent listening, there's a lot of good things you can figure out how to modify and make it your own.
There's a lot of fun stuff.
Awesome. Thank you again, Nathaniel, for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. You're a great guy, and I'm looking forward to the inner circle group.